Hey guys, I recently acquired some information that talks about some secret stuff regarding the Black Ops 3 campaign mode. I will warn you guys, there could be some major spoilers in this video. Although this information is directly from Treyarch, it doesn't necessarily mean that this will actually be in the game, although there's a very high probability. I've been taking some time to review all the information of these secret files, and I'm going to explain the story and the timeline of events based on the secret information and also the information from the trailer videos that Treyarch has already released for the campaign mode. And for the people that don't want to hear any spoilers, then you may want to stop the video right now. I will start off by saying that when you complete the campaign mode, it appears as though you unlock a secret zombie campaign story mode that contains the previous campaign story and gives you further insight into the characters with a really interesting twist to the end. It also appears to answer some of the questions about the true identity of some of the characters and also why they were doing what they were doing. Some of the campaign story mode information that I'll be sharing with you guys we already know because it's been released by Treyarch in the preview trailers. The rest of the information will be secret stuff that will help to fill in the campaign storyline. And then I will get into all that goes down inside the secret zombie campaign story mode. So we already know that the campaign story mode takes place in the year 2065. During this time, it seems that there are major climate changes and real issues of global warming, and everyone is at war trying to control the world's resources that are becoming very scarce. They are also fighting over the uprising of advanced robotic engineering that seems to be taking over and is becoming a real threat to the human race. You start off in the campaign as a member of the Winslow Accord, which is one of the international political and military groups. You work alongside the CIA and run missions to try and help solve the current world problems. The story takes you to locations such as Singapore, Egypt, Zurich. It makes mention of several areas that are under quarantine and talks about safe zones and secret CIA black station locations. The story seems to revolve around a secret CIA operation called Black Project. This Black Project involves a type of technology called DNI, which stands for Direct Neural Interface, which is an implant that connects directly into the human brain and spinal column and links them to a computer system, allowing them to share information through this connection. And this Black Project was supposed to be eliminated and buried 10 years ago. There were a lot of major world events going on at this time. One major event they talked about is a huge disaster that happened in Singapore, and that the secret Black Project was the cause of this disaster. Now, the multiplayer map EVAC that we got to play in the beta takes place on a rooftop in Singapore, which is an abandoned safe zone from a big disastrous flood. It would be safe to say that this would be linked to the Black Project, and I have my own theories about this Black Project based on the information from the zombie mode campaign, and I will explain that later. One of the more significant characters in the campaign goes by the name of Dr. Salim. On certain missions, you go after him to get critical information that he knows. One piece of information that you're trying to get out of him is about this secret place called the Forest. Apparently, he knows where the forest is and claims it is the only place where humanity will ever be safe. It also makes mention that several of the characters are obsessed with learning this location and seeking out Dr. Salim to get it. They talk about how the world is falling apart and Armageddon is coming and they need a place to go to survive. During one part of the story, it seems as though your character receives this DNI brain implant, which seems to play a big part in the zombie campaign mode, and I will cover that at the end of the video. From what I can understand from the end of this story mode, you are successful in your missions, but you do end up sustaining life-threatening injuries, and it doesn't say if you actually die or not. Again, this information is based off of what I could acquire. There could be a lot of missing pieces, and it may not actually be included in the game, and it'll be very interesting to find out when the game does come out in November. So based on Treyarch's history on having secret game modes, for example World at War, you had to finish the main campaign to unlock the zombie mode and be able to play Nocturne Toten. This leads me to believe that since they did not mention the zombie campaign story mode, and clearly I have seen the evidence that it does exist, it could mean that completing this main campaign would allow you to unlock the zombie campaign story mode. So if this is all true, then you would continue on to the zombie mode, and the story begins like this. In the year 2070, 5 years after the start of the main campaign story, the world finally collapsed. And for the next 5 years, it was the longest, darkest years ever. Somehow, the quarantine zones had been opened and given way to anarchy. Humanity's numbers had reduced to a few 100 million, and they were scattered across the globe. And now the undead have risen to over 7 billion, and this is the part where we finally start hearing about zombies. So now it's year 2075 and you awaken. It's dark and you can't see anything. You hear a man's voice speaking to you. You cannot see him and you do not know who he is. He speaks to you and he says, "My name is Dr. Salim. We've met before." He begins to explain that you have fallen between the world of the living and the dead, and it is called the Void, and that your body is dead but your mind is still very much alive. You want to know how he's able to speak to you if you can't see him. He explains that his connection to you is through your direct neural interface in your subconscious. You're in total disbelief and can't believe you're dead. The last thing you remember was being in Zurich and chasing a very bad man called Deimos and trying to stop him from his evil deeds. You continue to speak with Dr. Salim about this Deimos guy and how he had taken over the world and was responsible for its terrible fate. You speak about how he might have created the zombie infection and that there was a scientist that cured it by the name of Dr. Bishop, but that he had got killed. They also talk about how Deimos can control the undead, and you speak further with Dr. Salim and learn that he was behind the Black Project, that he was using the technology to control several people in the preceding campaign mode. He described it as slowly flowing through their veins and grasping control of them through the DNI technology, that he is going to do the same to you, but somehow you're stronger and more resistant and more difficult to control. There's another strange voice that you hear in the background. It's a woman's voice, and she says, "I am Dolos, goddess of trickery and deception." She tells you that you are more powerful than what Dr. Salim can ever imagine. Dr. Salim then goes on to explain his intentions with you and what he wants from you. He says humanity has stayed out its welcome, the dead shall inherit the earth, and that he must use you to open a gateway that would allow the forces of evil through, that this would allow him to have his undead army. And then he can defeat Dolos, goddess of trickery and deception, and that he wanted to take over a place called Malum. He also says that he will need your sacrifice, an offering of your blood, that he expects you to bow before him as the rest of your species has done and obey him. So at this point you learn that Dr. Salim is not actually human and probably a lot like the devil. I'm not going to tell you how the story ends, this is probably enough spoilers for one day, but if Treyarch chooses to use this storyline and adds in the Secret Zombie Campaign story mode, then I would love to buy this game just for that because it sounds freaking awesome. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next video.